Steve Sarkisian is leaving Alabama, according to Adam Schefter, and he is going to replace Kyle Shanahan with the Atlanta Falcons. So here's my takeaway on this. First of all, I think it's a very good hire by the Atlanta Falcons. I don't care what anybody says. I know coaches who know coaches. I think Steve Sarkisian actually will be a very good coordinator in the NFL for several years and eventually get a head coaching job in the NFL. He had a personal problem, but I'm from the Pacific Northwest. He took over a Washington program that was an absolute dumpster fire, 0 wins. Do you know how hard it is to be in a major conference and have 0 wins? That means you can't even win a single out-of-conference game. You can't win one out-of-conference game. Idaho State's too much for you. He took over that program. In 1 year, got to 5 wins, quickly got to 7 in bowl games, then got to 9 in the end, and left for USC, where he had an incredible recruiting class. Most wins ever for a USC coach in his first year. Write it down. And then personal chaos imploded. The guy can coach. The guy can recruit. I told you before, nothing against Lane Kiffin. I know Lane. I know Sark. Sark's the better coach. Sark should be a head coach somewhere. This is interesting. And let's talk about Alabama for 1 second here. This is what drove Pete Carroll crazy. Pete could recruit players. But what happened at the end to Mac Brown at Texas, at Urban Meyer at Florida, to Bobby Bowden at Florida State, and to Pete Carroll at USC? Eventually, they couldn't keep their best coordinators. It unveiled Urban Meyer. Pete Carroll, one after another after another. There are very few elite offensive coordinators in college football. Jim McElwain was one of them, left Nick. Lane was one of them, left Nick. Sark was one of them, left Nick. Doug Nussmeier was one of them. Nick got rid of him. So he's running through them now, and now Nick Saban, once again, in the last year, is going to have to replace. Kirby Smart left. Lane Kiffin left. Sark left. You're not going to replace those guys with better coaches in this time period. It's not that Alabama will be bad. It's not that Alabama doesn't remain a juggernaut. This is what got Pete Carroll out of college football. It's what got Urban Meyer out of Florida. It wore him out. That you were not only recruiting players, you're trying to recruit elite assistants. And also the word's out. Nick is rough to work for. Don't kid yourself. Sark heard every bad story from Lane. Sark knew the things Lane had only heard of. Lane told Sark, I imagine, all sorts of horror stories. They're good friends. And Sark said, I'm going to go to the NFL. I'm not going to do this. So there you go. Breaking news. Nick Saban now is looking for another offensive coordinator. He has had, honestly, it was just one game between Sark, Lane, and McElwain and Nussmeier. That's about as good as you could do at the college level for offensive minds. So that's the first story today. Happy for Sark. I think he'll succeed. I think it's good news for Falcon fans. And I think Sark's a really good offensive coordinator. I think he's really, really good.